I watch porn because I'm lonely. And I know most people that make videos about this have beat it and they're over it, and I'm not. And I feel guilty about that. And I'm trying to be transparent here because I feel like that's what I need, and that's what helps me. I'm trying to quit, and I've been trying for a while, and I still struggle with it. And after a while of, using, eventually I'll just clear my browser history because I just get so disgusted with seeing it again, and I guess it reminds me that I'm weak and that I suffer with this and I can't get over it, so I clear my history to avoid it. But recently I was on my Google account and I was looking at the sort of account activity settings, and here nothing was deleted. Every single thing since I made the account was there, and I could not help but scroll and look at some of the stuff I've been searching in. And I made this account in like 2012, so I was about 13 or so at the time. I'm scrolling further and further, and I feel just disgusted with myself at just some of the stuff I'm looking at, and just so weak for just watching so much of it. And then I went back further and further, and I was in about 2013 at this point, so I was 13 years old, and I saw something that changed all of the disgust I felt to just sadness. I was looking for porn of girls saying I love you, and girls saying I love you. I felt bad because it cast my mind back to what life I was living back then when I was a young kid, and I guess I've blocked off a lot of those bad memories, and because I've started self-improvement now and I go to the gym regularly and I've cleaned up my diet, I have a girlfriend, I kind of don't remember how much I used to suffer as a kid, and being able to see that really brought it all back. Yeah, that kid still lives in my mind, and even though I've built this success on top of that, he's still haunted by just feeling so lonely and witnessing abuse in the household growing up and just having to deal through shit by himself. Yeah, and I guess it became clear to me that day when I was looking at the stuff I used to look up, like, what type of sad kid is wanting to hear a girl's voice saying I love you? I knew it was fake. I knew it wasn't real. But I was so lonely that a part of me didn't care. Some part of me needed to hear that, even if I knew it was fake and it wasn't real. It made me forget about my life for just a second. And that's where the addiction was born. And I've been addicted ever since. And the reason it's hard to quit is because I don't know I've healed the wounds that brought me to wanting to use it in the first place. I used to think that it was about lust and sex, and it isn't at all. Because this addiction stayed with me even after getting a girlfriend. Yeah, I never really let her support me. I lived life alone, and porn gave me relief, so I watched it. Eventually we split up, and a while after, I go on a night out for the first time in a while, and I was ready to change something. And I remember, I think it had just been COVID for a while, so we'd been indoors for so long and stuff was open again, so I felt confident I felt excited to just be out again. And I went to this nightclub, and there was a girl that I saw there who kept looking at me, and we kept making eye contact. She was cute. I think I bumped into her in the smokers area of the club we were at, and then I just started chatting to her. I think I said some stupid line like, "Oh, you seem to keep following me around, don't you?" And she just admitted it. She was like, "Yeah." She was like, her friends dragged her out on a night out. She didn't even like the music, but she thought I was cute and that she just wanted to keep standing next to me and hope that I'd actually, be brave enough to say something, which worked. So I was gassed. I always went on nights out, but I was never a part of that hookup scene. I was too shy, so I would just go on nights out, get drunk and dance. And that's fun. I had a lot of great times doing that, but part of me wished that I could be a part of that as well. And we're hitting it off, and eventually at one point I think I just say, let's go back to my place, and she's like, yeah. And then I remember I was trying to act like it was normal, but I was so gassed. I couldn't believe that I would finally, this was the first girl I'd ever brought home from a night out, so I was just so excited and so tense, and yeah. And we get a taxi, we go back to my place, and we're lying on my bed, we're making out and kissing, and then slowly she starts to kiss down my neck, and then my chest, and then my stomach, and then, she pushes her head down, and, this is it, I'm so ready. She pulls my pants down, and she takes my dick out, and she starts kissing it. And at this point, I'm soft, and I'm enjoying it because it's hot, firstly, just looking at her down there, and I'm enjoying the experience. And then, bear in mind, this is the first hookup I've had since my ex dumped me. And then she, but I'm still have no action, and then she puts it in her, and she's, going slowly and still completely soft. My Johnson is just taking the day off. And then she starts going to town, doing some crazy, slipple slopple, rubble trouble, and just zero action. And I'm just watching her, and I'm just closing my eyes and trying to be like, Sol, come on, you wanted this for so long, you've been alone for so long, you have an opportunity, what the fuck's happening, and then I'm panicking and I'm freaking out, and then I think after 3 minutes of just no action at all, I'm like, she just looks up at me, just defeated, and I just hang my head in shame, and then I think we ended up cuddling and falling asleep, and then, and then, yeah, we wake up after a few hours, and she goes home. I remember being in bed after that, and feeling like such an idiot. I'd suffered so long, and I'd pushed myself so far, and I'd found an opportunity, and because I was so desensitized, nothing was happening, and I let the opportunity go through my fingers. And I felt like shit, and I got my phone out, and I started watching porn, and I had no issues this time. And I remember feeling like, bro, there was a hot girl with you literally 4 hours ago. What the fuck? You're saying you're lonely, but an opportunity comes your way, and you're so addicted to this that you didn't do anything about it. And I just I just bust the saddest nut the UK has ever seen, and I ended up falling asleep in the middle of the day. Just feeling like shit. One thing I wish I knew at the time was that the only thing that's required to beat an addiction and quit is having a why. And the strength of your why is going to be directly proportional to how likely you are to actually try. Of course, there's tips and tricks and things to pay attention to and be aware of. But the only thing you need is a why. And I guess some point after that, it clicked in my head. It was about a year after that, to be honest, of just living alone and having no intimacy with anybody. And I decided enough was enough. And I had my why. I ended up getting stood up on another date, which I arranged, and I moved to a different city for work. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know if I'll ever be able to hook up with a girl again, but I know for certain if it happens, I am not going to be soft like I was before, and I'm going to be ready for it. Yeah, the first most important thing, which I think I realized at the time, was get rid of all triggers. Instagram, Snapchat, everything, Facebook. I got rid of everything, and I saw a quote once which said, where someone was trying to lose weight, and the quote was, you either resist buying snacks once when you're at the store, or you have to rely on yourself resisting every single day if you buy it and bring it to your house. So every single time you watch anything that's any content that's sexual in nature, YouTube interviews, podcasts, whatever it may be, shows, music videos, it's like losing 10 HP. Like, you get a little chip damage. And if you keep taking chip damage, then eventually a minor bad day is going to come along and, you know, boom, and you relapse and you watch again because you have no HP left, because you've been losing it and you've been draining yourself and you've been setting yourself up for failure. What I started reframing was my wins and losses were avoiding the micro temptations, avoiding watching the shorts. If I would see something, I would scroll past it. And I began to actually realize just how instinctive and automatic my porn use was, and not even porn use, but just my desire to forget about what I was feeling and get stuck in something. And sexual content is perfectly wired to grab your attention and help you forget. One thing which really helped with this, which I'm not affiliated, but it's an app called Blocker X, and what it does is it just, anytime something remotely sexual comes up, it just takes you to the homepage and goes off it. And what that's going to do is buy you time so that you can actually be aware of the urge and turn your fucking monkey brain off for a second and try and you have an opportunity to take control and you have an opportunity to avoid that micro temptation. And the good thing about buying yourself more time is it gives you an opportunity to actually remember your why. If you're just scrolling and let's say you're taking a shit or something and you just immediately see something with ass or tits, you're just going to keep watching because you don't know what it's about. It's somewhat interesting. In that moment, you're not thinking, fuck, I've not been with a girl in a while, you know, I'm alone, I feel lonely, I'm embarrassed. Like, none of that's in your head. And when you get a moment to snap out of it, you're giving yourself at least an opportunity to remember why you were trying to beat this thing. And that was massively helpful. Yeah, and in my case, it was how bad I felt after having a horny girl in bed, being so lonely and not being able to do anything about it. So if I caved and watched some sexual content just for a second, or I felt the interest there before the app has a chance to jump in and block it off, I'd just be aware of it and try and limit it and keep doing healthy habits like exercising, working, eating clean. And the beauty of life is that your HP bar refreshes tomorrow. You just need to avoid taking enough damage so that when an inevitable bad event rolls around or you feel lonely or whatever reason, your HP is not so low that it causes you to watch again. And pretty much off the back of these things, I quit for about 6 months and I moved to a new city and I had about 4 hookups or so, 4 or 5, and it felt great to finally be over this thing. It felt good to be able to actually say to my friends, oh yeah, I don't actually watch that stuff. And I ended up getting a girlfriend, which is my current girlfriend, and the thoughts started creeping back in. And I remember being uncertain and thinking that I'd messed up. And they came back stronger and stronger. And yeah, I thought having a girlfriend would eliminate my need to use porn. But there's only one thing which is required to be a porn addiction. I promise this is true, which is your why. And my why was because I couldn't perform and I was too nervous, and and I was lonely, and I'd fixed that now. I had a girlfriend. So subconsciously, I've noticed myself having less willpower, succumbing more, but my why had vanished. So the foundations with which I'd actually got hold over this addiction had gone. So I didn't stand a chance at this point. And I started watching every 2 weeks, and then every week, and then daily, and then multiple times a day. Fuck's sake. Porn is not about sex. It's not about lust. If you think you're horny, try and masturbate without porn. If you're truly horny, you won't need porn. And promise me you'll like me, and I'm this way. Your addiction is to porn, not masturbation. That's something I've had to come to admit, I guess. What I needed now was a long-term why. And because my last one was short-term, and I fixed and I solved that, and then it went, and I was suddenly struggling again, and I needed to try and think what I'm going to use now to try and to give me fuel to beat this thing, which has been a crutch which I've used since I was 13. Yeah, and a few months ago, I figured it out. I had this dream of starting this channel and making videos talking about my life and sharing the struggles which I'm in, because when I see other people doing this, it makes me feel, it doesn't even make me feel good, it makes me feel like at least I'm hearing some truth. Like, at least someone's being honest. At least I'm seeing for a second someone else suffer and not just acting like they've got everything together and that everything's okay. Like, they're letting us see their suffering, and that helps me feel connected, and that helps me want to feel alive. And when I watch porn, I remove that. I numb out all the suffering. I numb out the loneliness. I numb out the pain. And if I can't access that stuff, then I can't connect with the world. I'm already an isolated person as it is. I can't afford to block that stuff off. Otherwise, I'm going to slip into depression again, because the only way I got out of that was through connection. Another important tip I've got, and I couldn't recommend more doing this, is admit it to your friends. I remember the first time that I brought up having an addiction, or kind of mentioning that this was something that I wanted to get control over, just to my mates. And fuck knows, I can't believe I'm saying this to the internet, but I started off with just my friends. And when I first brought it up, they sort of glanced over it and didn't really mention it again. And then in the few months after that, they'd sort of come to me and say, oh yeah, I've been thinking about this. And I kind of realized, like, fuck, like, everyone's struggling with this. Porn is like 60% of all internet traffic. Of all clicks and all traffic on the internet, 60% is porn. Everyone's suffering with this, but no one admits it. And yeah, I have shame and guilt and embarrassment about it, but when I hide it and I don't admit it to people, then I'm not able to use that guilt or that shame to motivate myself to change. I'm kind of leaving that ball of guilt there, and I'm just ignoring it, and it's rotting away at me inside. When you admit it, I'm not saying you should, hate yourself, but if you do hate yourself for this, own it. You hate yourself. Don't hide that and then let other people not judge you. Let them judge you, because you're already judging yourself, so you may as well be honest about it. Yeah, and when you let them judge you, you're going to be 3% more likely to, well, let me just avoid it this time, because it feels bad admitting it that I've slipped up again to people. Yeah. As I said, this isn't something which I've beat. I wish I could come on here and say all these tips have just led me to 100% beating this addiction, and it's completely in my past, and it's not something I struggle with, but it is something I struggle with. And I am embarrassed about saying And I guess this part of this video is about me taking control over that. What I have done though is I've drastically reduced my use to about once a week, and that feels good. It feels like I'm making progress, and it feels like it's something which I have hope about now. Yeah, of course the goal is 0, but this is what I've got for now, and yeah, I hope it's helped.